Let's talk photography.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome along to another post-processing tutorial, and today we are going to process this Woodland image. It was a tie between this image and the other one from the Woodland, so I'm just going to do a tutorial on both of them. But this is the edit that I done in Lightroom, and I took it into Photoshop then, and this was the completed image. Now, I'd done very little in Photoshop, and kind of the techniques I used in Photoshop could really be done in Lightroom, but this is just my workflow. I like to delve into Photoshop, see what I can do, and delve back out again into Lightroom, okay? I felt that this tutorial will be very good for beginners because I use a lot of techniques in Lightroom that might get you started. Whereas the other Woodland image that I'm going to do a tutorial on, that's very much about the composition and kind of how it was shot in camera. So I'll be explaining that when I actually do the tutorial itself. So here we go, right? The whole purpose of this is I want to try and create light and drama here in the sky, because the sky is as bland as a piece of bread, okay? And I'm going to try and draw the eye to this tree and this tree back here. So compositionally, we've got a nice little line here of the path. We have a tree which anchors our eye in the midground, and we have a tree back here, okay? So already you're going bang, bang, bang. And that's something we'll speak about in composition. It's a form of a leading line and shape, all right? So firstly, I'm going to drop my highlights. Okay. I'm going to bring up my shadows, and I'm going to bring up the whites as well. I'm going to make them pop, and the blacks will just give it a tiny bit of contrast. Like so, okay? Now, in terms of white balance, this is a technique I use when I'm editing kind of wintry, cool images, and I don't like the colour. See the way it gives an awful colour cast when you reduce your white balance to kind of a cooler temperature. I don't like that. It gives it an awful cast. So what I always do is I play with the vibrance of it. As you can see, as I lower my vibrance, okay, if I play around with the white balance and the vibrance, you kind of get this kind of off blue colour. It's like a silvery blue, and I really like that in my images. So this is personal preference. As you can see here, it's kind of like, it's not black and white, but it's not real colourful either. So I really like that in my images, and that's what I kind of use when I'm editing kind of woodland images like this in the winter time. So play around with your white balance, okay? That looks alright. And we still kind of have a cool image, cool blue tones, but it's almost black and white, okay? That's the way I like to work. Okay, now I'm going to deal with the sky, and I'm going to use grad filters here, and I'm going to, Ronan spoke about this in the podcast a good while ago, where if a very kind of overcast day, drag a graduated filter down over your sky like this and go to town on it with the exposure, okay? Really darken that sky, bring down the whites, the shadows. I'll have to spot in a dust spot here, okay? Bring down the highlights, really go mad, okay? We want to create a dark, ominous sky here. Now, as you can see, it's affecting the trees here as well. So I'm going to turn on my luminance mask here. So this is range masking in Lightroom, very powerful tool. Click on show luminance mask. As you can see, it's affecting the trees here. So I'm just going to adjust that mask, the range of it, okay? So that it only affects the sky here. And that's a very powerful tool in Lightroom, okay? It's a form of masking. So now we're only affecting where the red is, all right? So perfect. Now, that's kind of my sky dark, and I'm going to go a bit more on that again, but for the moment now, we're going to create a bit of light just to try and draw the eye to this side of the image, and I'm going to use a radial filter to do that. And the reason I'm doing this is just the sky is bland like this, alright, as it is. But if you create areas of dark and light, it just creates a more impactful image, and I'm very much in favour of creating dark and light areas in an image, alright? So grab your radial filter, open it up like that, and up the whites and up the highlights. Now don't go mad, as you can see there. Alright, just like that. Okay. And as you can see, we've created a nice bright area here. Okay. I'm actually gonna grab the radial filter again, and I'm gonna just, it's almost dodging and burning what I'm doing here. Okay, again, creating areas of light dotted throughout the image. Okay, back here as well. I want this to be And obviously we have predominantly whites in this image, so I'm using my whites and my shadows, okay? Perfect. Now, once again, I'm going to grab another grad. And I'm going to pull down from the top left this time because the light is here. So I'm going to want to darken this side so we have a nice transition from dark to light. Okay. Again, exposure, contrast. A lot of people say I could be overdoing it. I wouldn't really say that. I want to really create this, right, without causing banding. If I went too much there, I would have banding in this image. All right, and if you do see banding when it goes into Photoshop, that's to do with something with the screen can't display it properly. I've seen in other videos. All right, so apologies, well, my PC is running so slow today. Here we go, dust spot. So I'm going to remove that, and I'm just going to go around 1:1 in the sky and see, do we have any other dust spots? Yeah, we've one small fell up there. Okay, perfect. So that's that tool up there. It's the healing tool. All right, we're nearly ready for Photoshop. Nearly there. I'm gonna bring these blacks down a small bit. I actually like where we're at now. So, okay, and if I was to do a before and after, how do I do before and after again? I think it's at the back button, isn't it? Before and after, backslash, yeah, that's what it is. Forgive me now, I'm trying to find the backslash in my, oh wait, here we go. There we go. Yeah, so here's the before, here's the after. Before, after, okay? Apologies, I'm not great at my Lightroom shortcuts. So before and after, as you can see, we've created lots of mood, lots of light here in this brighter area of the image, and we've darkened this part of the image, okay? So perfect. Now we're ready to go into Photoshop. So right click on the image, go to edit in, and edit in Photoshop. I'm trying to make this as quick as possible. If you're like me, I don't actually watch YouTube videos a lot, which is ironic, but I kind of get lost in them. I like nice, quick, concise tutorials, which is kind of why I like Jimmy McIntyre's work. He does very quick tutorials. He doesn't harp on about loads of things. So switching over now to my stylus and my tablet there. And here we are in Photoshop, right? And literally all I'm going to do in Photoshop is a bit of dodging and burning and an art and effect, okay? So I'm going to duplicate my layer. I'm going to call that D and B, all right? TJ Allen won't be pulling me up anymore on this. So if you're wondering why I'm saying that, in the previous in the Wicklow edit, I done what's called a destructive method of dodging and burning, whereas I dodged and burned on this layer, okay, and that way I can't control it. Whereas now, if I dodge and burn on this layer, I can control its opacity and I can mask stuff out and things like that. So TJ was quick to pull me on my destructive dodging and burning workflow. So here we go. I'm going to dodge in some areas here now. I'm going to stick my mid-tones. I'm going to reduce the exposure. The dodge tool is down here as well, by the way. Dodge and burn. Okay. And I'm going to dodge in this area. Dodge in here. I'm actually going to dodge a bit more brightness in there now as well. Very, very subtle. Really subtle, but that's what you need. Okay. Perfect. Now, this area here, okay, I want to make the art and effect around this light here. I don't want everything arting, so I'll show. There's loads of ways to do this. I could just put arting on this layer and mask out the areas I don't want to do. I showed you how to do that in my previous tutorial, but I'm going to show you a new little technique here. So I'm going to hit Shift Control Alt and E to put them onto one layer. Okay, again, destructive workflow. I'm going to go to Select and Color Range. Okay, and now you'll see I have a dropper tool. And if I press the dropper tool here, it's basically going to select whatever I have my dropper on. So here's the whites. Okay, so I want the white select. I want this brighter area. And I'm going to click OK. And you should be able to see the marching ants here now in a second. My PC decides to run. Yeah, perfect. So here are the marching ants. Okay. I know all this is selected as well, but that's okay. We can deal with that afterwards. So I just want to arten out this area. So to put that selection onto a new layer, I'm going to hit Control and J. All right, and I'll show you why I'm doing that now in a minute. So I'm going to go to my art and effect. Again, Gaussian blur. If you don't have Riot Pro, it's Gaussian blur. Okay, so click OK. And the whole image has been artened out. Now, if I want to just apply the arten to this layer here, which is my sky, okay, I'll you know what, I'll rename that to sky. It's a good habit to get into. I hold Alt, and as you see this little symbol here that's coming up, I can basically click. Oh, sorry, that's my fault. I can basically, so select the arten layer, hold Alt, and clip it on. So now the arten has only affected this sky layer. So what I've done there is I held Alt, okay, and I just, when you kind of hovered over the line in between the two layers, you'll be able to clip the arten effect to just this sky layer. So if I zoom in there, you'll see what I mean. So I'm going to zoom in there, have a look at this sky here now. See, we've only kind of created the glow over the brighter area of the image itself. Now, in my selection, it had selected my trees here, and I don't want that, so I'll just put a mask over that arten layer, a white mask. I'll select the black brush, and I'll just paint out those areas where I don't want it affected. Okay, so there we go. We've created this lovely glow here all around this image, okay, or all around, sorry, this brighter area. And that's all I want to do. I want to keep all the nice details here. So again, I'm going to hit Shift, Control, Alt and E. I'm going to put them onto one layer. I'm going to convert this to a smart object, okay. The reason I convert my layers to a smart object before I go into Camera Raw is that if it weren't a smart object, well, anytime I make a change and I go out of Camera Raw, if I go back into it, then all the sliders will be reset. So I won't be able to kind of pick up where I left off. Whereas when it's a smart object, basically the sliders will stay where you've left them when you left the actual Camera Raw itself, okay? What I'm going to do here is I'm going to pick a grad filter and I'm going to pull up from the bottom and I'm going to lower my shadows and my whites, okay? Really all I'm doing is I'm darkening the base of the image and I'm creating kind of a frame, alright? I'm going to go again from the top. I'm going to darken it even more. Control Z, undo. Control Z is a shortcut for undo as well if you want to know that. And yeah, that's not looking too bad now at all. I'm going to come up from this side as well with a grad. Grads are so powerful. Alright, and as you can see, we've nicely framed, okay, the image now. We've a dark area here, we've a dark area, and where we want the eye drawn to is brighter, okay? And that's kind of how you should adopt your workflow. Next, yeah, color mix. I'm not too pushed on any of these. I could adjust my luminance just to make my blues a small bit brighter, but I'm fairly okay with that. Okay, perfect. As you can see, we've created this nice frame around our image. All right. Next, last but not least, I'm going to go to Filter, Sharpen and Unsharp Mask. And this is how I sharpen my photos in Photoshop. 46 is generally a good amount with the radius set to 5. Okay. Click OK. If I go in here now, okay, if I click the Unsharp Mask, you should be able to see the difference, okay, when it renders it as Smart Filter. Again, because I done that as a Smart Filter, because I can just double click and go back into my Unsharp Mask again and adjust it, alright. I'll show you if I double click on the Camera Raw and it opens up Camera Raw again. Alright, my sliders or my adjustments are still there. So see the way here is the grad filters that I put on it already, and I didn't do any adjustments here on my basic panel. Alright, so that's kind of it. That's my edit done in Photoshop. I'm going to hit Control and S now. Alright, and I'm going to bring it back into Lightroom. It'll save it automatically and it should bring it back into Lightroom for you. Okay. Yeah, there we go. There it is in Lightroom. Ignore these photographs. I'm not that vain, okay? I did not take them. And the last thing we're going to do now is we're going to crop the photograph, okay? So I'm going to go with a 4:5, I think. 4:5 looks to be fairly decent with that. And I'm going to adjust a small bit. So unlock the aspect ratio, and just adjust a tiny bit, just to get more of this moody sky in. and I really like that. That is the photograph finished. Small bit of contrast, maybe go a touch more blue and de-vibrance it, and there you go. You've created a magical woodland image. Nice glow here on the sky, and yeah, that's how I process that photograph. So hopefully that was helpful. I hope you learned a couple of techniques there, and as always, thanks very much for watching the tutorials. Thanks very much for listening to the podcast, and we'll see you next time. Stay safe.